John Felt here, and this is the Blue Water Outlook weekly weather briefing for the 14th of June, 2025. Hope you're having a great summer so far. You know, the theme of this briefing for rainfall is a focus in the upper Mississippi, but it looks like a lot of hot summer weather is ahead with some excessive heat in spots. Let's get started in today's briefing. Well, first off, let's take a look at some of the weather risks this week. And I mentioned in a post this week, I put out how the focus for severe storms starts to lift to the north in the central and northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes region. And you can see most days this week we're going to have a chance of some strong storms. And this time of year, atmosphere can be sort of soupy, and that picks up a lot of moisture, and we could have some excessive rain and some flash flooding in spots. Now, last week, this is a summary of all of our severe weather. The purple triangles are large hail, and the yellow is high winds. Not as many tornadoes, but there were some tornadoes here and there. There's one right there. There's a few right in here. A couple along the Gulf Coast, a couple in Texas. But the big story last week, unfortunately, there were at least 8 fatalities due to severe flash flooding in the San Antonio area right in here. You can see these spots here that received over 8 inches of rain. And like we've seen in recent years, it just seems like extreme rainfall events are really increasing. That atmosphere can hold a lot of moisture, and if there's lift and something to trigger that rain, it can be very heavy. So like I said, we had over 6 inches of rain near San Antonio, and some spots maybe even higher than that. There's a 9-inch right there over a short period of time. Now, temperatures last week, the high heat was over the western U.S., especially the Pacific Northwest, with temperatures 10 to 15 degrees above normal. And right now, what we had cooler than normal temperatures over the middle part of the nation. I think this red here is going to be expanding in many spots. But dew points, low-level moisture has really increased. Remember a briefing, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I talked about how that's going to start to work up to the north, and now we're getting active crop growing, especially corn, and that pulls that moisture into the lower atmosphere. So what we have is mid-60s to mid-70 dew points, and I'll show you in a minute why that's going to be significant on our temperature. Now, rivers are running quite high. We're getting major flooding in parts of eastern Texas due to that very heavy rain. We have the potential for some heavy rain in the mid-Atlantic region and right in this region at the current time. So what we have as far as the jet stream goes, we have this system here, and this is moving to the east. That's going to produce some heavy rain in the mid-Atlantic. Big ridge of high pressure in the central U.S. Middle of the week, we have a system producing that upper Mississippi threat for heavy rain right here. And then behind that is what we have, a big dome of high pressure over the central U.S. with a lot of hot weather. Now, there'll be a reprieve in the Pacific Northwest with that area of low pressure that will be cooler in that region. And you can see this here as far as temperatures, how the Pacific Northwest and part of the West that's been so hot shifts and really changes to cooler weather, but the Midwest and the East, much warmer weather. So we have outlooks for excessive heat from the Midwest into the East later in the week into next weekend. By Thursday, look at all the regions that we're seeing highs in the 90s here. And what sort of struck me here when I took a look at the temperature outlook was how unusually warm the overnight lows are going to be. And that's that role of that dew point. All that low-level moisture is really going to affect our low temperatures. And when I look at all the records, these are all the records this week. Look at Thursday. This is a high minimum temperature over the eastern half or maybe eastern third of the nation. We are lots of record high minimum temperatures. So really muggy nights ahead for many areas. Okay, so that's temperatures. A lot of summer heat, a lot of summer humidity ahead. What about rain? Well, the focus is generally in a couple spots. We have the mid-Atlantic region with that first system, and then we have the upper Midwest with the second. Each one of these could produce some flash flooding, some excessive rain. But the upper Midwest is generally going to fall. The rain's going to fall over an area that's dry. So in some cases, that's a needed rain. That said, there'll still be tributaries running quite high. And that'll get into the upper Mississippi. It'll be putting some flow into the upper Mississippi. And as that comes down, it's going to attenuate. So I don't expect anything all that widespread. But the positive on that is as we get into summer, that's going to help maintain our flows so we don't get, at least for a while, into that risk of unusually low flows. Okay, what about week 2? Well, the hot weather really continues. Look at that eastern U.S. We are looking at 6 days all the way through week 2, some really hot weather. And then weeks 3 and 4, it shifts back into the western U.S. with hot weather. So that ridge of high pressure is going to be shifting, and it's going to late this week, it's going to affect the central and eastern U.S. That's going to continue into week 2. Then weeks 3 and 4, it's going to shift back to the west and affect the western U.S. So lots of stories, I think, on hot weather, but it could be the middle to late June. That's what we expect in many cases. Have a great week. Take care.